Welcome. So, you want to become a more confident and capable Mandarin speaker? Well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to break down the practical steps you can take to get there, nice and slow. Okay, let's dive right in.
I like to think of this whole process kind of like building a house. First, we've got to lay the groundwork, the foundation. Then, we'll get into the right mindset for the actual construction. After that, we'll look at the specific tools that'll help our conversations flow smoothly. Then, the practice habits that really build up the structure. And finally, we'll cover the single most important tip, the one that holds the whole thing together.
All right, let's get started. Section 1, the groundwork. So, before we even think about having a complex conversation, we've got to build a solid foundation. These next few things, they're the absolute non-negotiables. So here they are. These are the 3 pillars of your foundation. Now, it's so important to understand this one thing. Speaking is an output skill. And what that means is what you can say depends entirely on the quality of your input. You see, without solid input, your output is always going to be limited.
Okay, so you might be asking, why is reading so critical for speaking? Well, because it's the key to what we call comprehensible input. See, when you can read, you unlock everything. Subtitles on shows, graded readers, podcast transcripts, the whole shebang. And that makes your listening practice so much more effective. Aiming for that goal of around 3,000 characters, that's what really opens up this entire world of content for you.
You know, this quote, it just applies so perfectly to listening. You've got to start immersing yourself in Chinese audio. Every single day. Think of it this way. Reading builds your vocabulary base, right? But listening is the magic ingredient. It's what trains your ear and helps you sound, more natural. It absolutely takes time, which is why the best time to start was yesterday. And the next best time, it's right now.
Okay, so with that foundation in place, let's move on to section 2. Now we're going to tackle what is, for a lot of people, the biggest obstacle of all. And it's not grammar or vocab, it's the psychological one. Yeah, this is all about your mindset.
This is a big one. You have to learn to let go of your ego. Seriously, no one, and I mean no one, is judging your mistakes as harshly as you are. Even native speakers stumble over their words. The thing is, overthinking your mistakes just adds all this unnecessary pressure. The person you're talking to, they aren't analyzing their every single tone. They're just trying to have a conversation. Learning to just laugh it off and move on, it's totally liberating.
This right here, this is such a common trap. So many of us try to sound advanced, We try to use all this complex vocabulary and grammar that we haven't quite mastered. But here's the secret. The goal is just clear communication. It's not some kind of complex performance. If you just focus on using simple, high-frequency words, like the top 1,000, you'll get your point across way more effectively, you'll feel less stressed, and you'll actually build confidence. And that one simple shift, it makes speaking so much more enjoyable.
Okay, here is an incredibly practical, simple technique. I want you to try this. Intentionally slow down your speaking speed by about 20 to 30%. Just try it. This one little change gives your brain the extra time it needs to process your thoughts, and it gives your mouth the time it needs to pronounce things clearly. It's a game changer.
And piggybacking on that last point, don't be afraid to pause. Seriously, a strategic pause doesn't make you sound less fluent. Actually, it often makes you sound more thoughtful, more articulate. Just listen to how articulate native speakers do it. They pause to gather their thoughts in longer sentences all the time. You should absolutely give yourself that same advantage.
Okay, let's move on to section 3. Now we're going to look at some really practical tools, things you can use right in the middle of a conversation to make everything flow better and sound way more natural.
All right, let's talk about fillers. You know, those little words or sounds we use to fill space while we think? A lot of learners try to avoid them, thinking they sound unprofessional or something. But here's the secret. Native speakers use them all the time, so you should definitely give yourself that same advantage. They're a critical tool for just buying yourself a moment to think.
So you should start consciously peppering these into your speech. You've got which is kind of like or And then there's 这个, this one, or 那个, that one. Even just saying 那个, it's incredibly effective. It buys you those precious microseconds to gather your thoughts, all without a long, awkward, silent pause.
Now, taking it a step further from fillers, we have what I call conversation connectors. These are fixed phrases that help you transition between ideas, ask questions, or agree with someone. Mastering just a few of these adds a whole new layer of structure and flow to your speech. They're kind of like signposts in your conversation, you know? They guide both you and the listener from one idea to the next.
All right, now let's talk about the long game. We're going to cover the deliberate, long-term habits. These are the consistent practices that are going to create real, lasting progress in your speaking ability.
This analogy you see here, it's absolutely key to understanding effective practice. Think about it. Reading is a slow, deliberate way to take in language, right? Well, writing is a slow, deliberate way to produce it. Writing is basically just like speaking, but with all the pressure taken off. It lets you formulate your thoughts carefully and really cement those good habits.
Okay, let's talk about a technique called shadowing. This is where you listen to native audio and you literally speak along with it, trying to imitate the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, everything exactly. It's a really intensive activity that trains your mouth muscles and it connects what you hear to what you say. It's like a physical workout for your pronunciation. Think of it like training with extra weight on. When you finally take those weights off for a real conversation, it feels so much easier.
But to really lock in your progress, consistency is everything. It's about building habits. Things like having regular sessions with tutors or language partners. Or hey, even just talking to yourself. You can use headphones to feel less self-conscious. Trying to think in Chinese to avoid that direct translation trap. Or even just telling a short personal story over and over again. These are the habits, the things that build the pathways in your brain for fluent, spontaneous speech. Okay, we've gone through the groundwork, the mindset, the tools, the habits, but after all that, it really all comes down to one final, crucial piece of advice. If you remember nothing else from this whole explainer, please remember this. This is the honest truth. You have to push through the part where you're not good, because it's going to be awkward. You're going to feel like you're not good for a while. Everyone, and I mean everyone, goes through this awkward, difficult phase. It's completely unavoidable. You will feel clumsy, you will make mistakes, and the only way to get better is to embrace that discomfort, accept that it's just part of the process, and simply keep going.
Look, progress isn't about doing everything at once. It's just about taking one small, consistent step forward. So I want you to think about this. What's one thing you will practice today? Just one. Will you try slowing down your speech? Maybe use a filler word like nega. Or maybe just try shadowing for 2 minutes. Just pick one thing and do it. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and good luck with your practice.